Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, is it worth it to attend a pre-release event? The answer has always been yes, absolutely it is worth it. Pre-release is the best way to experience a new Magic the Gathering set, and Magic the Gathering's newest set, Spider-Man, is no exception. Whether you're an established player who loves playing with new cards, or you're a Spider-Man fan who wants to check out what this whole Magic the Gathering thing is all about, pre-release is the event for you. If you can attend a pre-release at your local game store, I highly encourage you to do so. Pre-release events are a form of sealed tournament in which you receive a pre-release kit containing 6 sealed packs of the newest set as well as 1 promo card. Using this kit and as many basic lands from your local game store's basic land station as you'd like, you'll build a deck of 40 cards to battle against other players who also built decks out of their pre-release kits. In this video, I'll cover everything you need to know to build the best sealed deck you can out of your Spider-Man pre-release pool. I'll cover everything from the set's mechanics, archetypes, and key cards that you should keep an eye out for when cracking your packs. Now, this video will assume that you are already familiar with the basics, but don't fear, because if you've never attended a pre-release event before, or it's been a while since your last one, you can always check out our video explaining how to build a sealed deck for brand new players. A great video for if you're bringing a friend along to your pre-release. That video will lay out everything you need to know if you're starting from absolute scratch or it's just been a long while this video will cover everything specific to Spider-Man the set. Either way, we've got a lot of information to cover today, so let's get started. And remember, as we head into these events, be they pre-release, Friday Night Magic, or even just casual Commander Thursdays, many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, why can't I have a high-paying job playing Magic the Gathering? Well, maybe you could if you learned how to code instead of just learning how banding works. In fact, learning the code is probably easier than learning how banding works, and now it's even easier with Boot.dev, who turns learning back-end web development and programming languages like Python and Go into a game. Learn back-end web development like you were playing a game. Level up with Python and Go programming languages. Complete quests, level up, and compete against others on a global leaderboard. If you find yourself on a particular quest, just talk to Boots. He asks you guiding questions that boost your understanding rather than simply handing you the answers. Again, you're learning how to code just like you would learn how to play a game and master a game. You can do this. You can finally level up. Best of all of Boot.dev's content is free to read and watch in guest mode. A paid membership unlocks interactivity and the game that goes along with it, and if you find that the platform isn't helping you as much as you'd hoped, well, Boot.dev offers a 30-day no questions asked refund policy. So level up today by clicking the link in this video description and using my code Tolarian to get 25% off your first payment for Boot.dev. That's 25% off. Thank you, Boot.dev, for sponsoring this video. A set's mechanics are the skeleton of any limited environment, and Spider-Man is no exception. There are 2 brand new mechanics in this set, though savvy players might notice similarities between both of these mechanics and a couple of fan-favorite past mechanics. There are also 2 main returning mechanics. In this next section, I'm going to go over all 4 of these mechanics and explain how to make the most of them at your pre-release event. Let's begin with web slinging. Web slinging is the signature ability of the many Spider-Man variants and the marquee mechanic of the set. Web slinging is an alternative casting cost that requires you to return a tapped creature to your hand in addition to paying the listed cost. Web slinging is usually cheaper than paying the regular casting cost, and is a great way to both get a discount on your Spider Guy and re-trigger any enters the battlefield effects you may have. Web slinging is specifically associated with the green-white archetype in this set, but there are a couple web slinging cards of other colors at higher rarities. The simplest way to have a creature you can bounce is by attacking with one, and then web slinging in your second main phase. But you can also tap creatures to abilities, such as mana abilities or vehicles crew costs. Mayhem. The other new mechanic in Spider-Man is Mayhem, the mechanic affiliated primarily with the red-black archetype of the set. Mayhem is an alternate casting cost that allows you to cast a spell with Mayhem from your graveyard if you discarded it this turn. Mayhem appears only on cards with the Grixis color shard of blue, black, and red. Discarding a card is a common cost or drawback associated with powerful effects in Magic, as a means of balancing the strength of those effects. Mayhem allows you to eliminate that drawback, because when you cast a card for its Mayhem cost, it's like you didn't have to discard a card to the prior effect. In other words, you can view every card you cast for its Mayhem cost as the card advantage equivalent of drawing a card. Keep in mind that while you must cast the Mayhem card on the turn you discarded it, you don't have to do so right away. You can play a land to help you cast it, for instance, or go to combat to see if anything that happens during combat changes your plans for the turn. Modified. Modified is a returning mechanic in Spider-Man, first introduced in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. A modified creature is any creature that is enchanted, equipped, or has any kind of counter on it. Modifications can happen in all colors, but modified benefits appear only on white cards in Spider-Man. Connive. Connive is the other returning mechanic in Spider-Man, first seen in Streets of New Capenna. To connive, draw a card, then discard a card. When you discard a non-land card to connive, put a +1/+1 counter on the conniving creature. Connive appears only on cards within the Dimir color pair. Connive is an excellent bridge mechanic in Spider-Man Limited, as it provides both a discard outlet for any Mayhem cards in your deck, as well as provides you with +1/+1 counters for any of your modified synergies, all while providing valuable card selection. Please note that even though you only get a +1/+1 counter if you discarded a non-land card, that does not mean you should always discard a non-land card over a land card when you connive. It depends on the board's state and how valuable the +1/+1 counter is, versus how good the card you would be discarding is. The best limited decks are more than the sum of their parts. The cards in Spider-Man were designed to fit into 5 archetypes, each consisting of a 2-color pair. Understanding what each of these archetypes are and how to build with them in mind will put you in a better position to succeed at your pre-release event. The blue-white archetype centers around the modified ability keyword. Buff your creatures with auras, equipment, and +1/+1 counters, and then reap the rewards provided by your modified matters cards. There are 2 main rules of thumb to keep in mind when playing a modified deck. The first is that it's generally a good idea to spread your modifications around the field, rather than piling them all up on a single creature. That way your opponents will have a harder time deciding where to point their removal spells. The second is that all other things being equal, evasive creatures are the best ones to modify. A 2-power flying creature is generally more useful than a 3-power ground creature. Wraith, Vicious Vigilante, is the absolute best candidate to hold +1/+1 counters in the blue-white deck for her evasion and double striking capabilities. The blue-black archetype in Spider-Man Limited is a villainous connive deck. These decks consist of card selection, efficient interaction, and iconic villains. Your goal should be to play a long, grindy game, filtering through your deck to find the right cards for the right moments, all while you chip in with your villains for damage. Mayhem cards are extremely good with connive. You should be sure to include any of the Mayhem cards in blue and black that you open in your pool, and you may want to splash any of the powerful Mayhem cards in red that you open. Take note of any ominous asylums in your pool. The more of these you open, the easier it will be to splash those good red cards. Remember that you can run the Scarlet Spider, Kane, in your blue-black connive deck without needing to play a single red land, because you can pay for his Mayhem cost with a single black mana. The red-black deck is, of course, a Mayhem deck in Spider-Man Limited. The goal here is to pair discard outlets with Mayhem cards to outvalue your opponents. The trick to piloting this deck is lining up your discard outlets with Mayhem cards that are castable the turn you discard a card. Remember that you don't have to cast Mayhem cards for their Mayhem costs. It's merely an option available to you. Pumpkin Bombardment is one of the most important commons for the red-black deck, as it's a 1-mana way to discard your Mayhem cards while clearing an opponent's creature. The fallback case of paying 2 extra mana instead of discarding a card is also a perfectly acceptable rate. There is tons of removal in red and black colors, which is awesome, but that does mean you'll want to be sure you don't run out of cards after trading 1-for-1 all game. Risky Research is a great card advantage card to pair with all your removal spells. Romantic Rendezvous is as well, especially because it's just a 2-mana draw 2 when you're empty-handed. The red-green deck is all about getting big beaters into play early. Mana dorks and other forms of ramp are invaluable in this deck, as one of the best cards in the archetype is the 7-mana Rhino, Barreling Brute, which hits hard and keeps your hand stocked with good cards to cast. Early plays are vital in this deck, as you don't want to fall behind to early aggression while you're stuck with high mana value spells in your hand. Spider Manifestation, Lurking Lizards, Guy in the Chair, and Superior Foes of Spider-Man are some of your best early game creatures. And don't forget that including cheap removal like Shock and Wisecrack, as they're incredibly important as well. Remember that when you cast a bigger spell for its cheaper Mayhem or Web-Slinging cost, such as Raging Goblinoids or Spider-Man Brooklyn Visionary, your effects that trigger when you cast 4-mana value spells will still trigger even though you paid less than 4 mana. Neat! The green-white deck in Spider-Man is the Web-Slinging deck. Pair your Web-Slinging Spider-Men with good bounce fodder to cast your heroes for reduced mana cost and retrigger any effects that you get from entering the battlefield. Evasive creatures are the surest way to web-sling via combat without having your creature die. City Pigeon and Spider-Girl Legacy Hero both attack in the air and leave behind a token of some kind when they're web-slung back to hand. Creatures with Enter the Battlefield effects such as Galleon Citizen or Daily Bugle Reporters will also make great bounce fodder. On a crowded battlefield, you might struggle to keep your potential bounce fodder alive through combat, and therefore it is critical to try and include some means of tapping your creatures outside of combat. Mana dorks such as Guy in the Chair or even the Spider Manifestation borrowed from the Gruul deck tap themselves down while providing mana for web slinging. Supportive Parents turns all your creatures into half-mana dorks, and vehicles like Subway Train or Spider-Mobile can be crewed by a creature you intend to bounce before you cast your web-slinging card. Now, I touched on this earlier in the video, but I wanted to reiterate something about the hybrid mana symbols in this set. Because hybrid mana can be paid for with either color that appears within the symbol, you can run hybrid cards in 2-color decks that are adjacent to the color identity of the hybrid card. In other words, you can run Skyward Spider in a green-white deck without needing to play any islands. You'll just need to treat its casting cost as if it were white-white instead of hybrid white-blue, hybrid white-blue. Likewise, Pumpkin Bombardment can be played in either a red or a black deck, not just a deck that is both red and black. The 5 color pairs I just went over are what's known as ally color pairs, but while those are the supposed archetypes in Spider-Man Limited, you are not required to build a deck that fits into an ally color pair at your pre-release. For instance, you could open enough powerful white and black cards that you decide to build a deck in that color pair instead. Indeed, all the enemy color gold rares and mythics are powerful cards that are worth running if you can cast them. Now, that being said, I would recommend trying your best to build a deck within the ally color pairs if you are new to either Limited or Magic the Gathering as a whole. You'll have a much easier time building a cohesive deck if you stick to one of these 5 established lanes. If you do open one of the enemy color bombs and you want to play them, I would recommend building a deck within an ally color pair that touches one of the 2 colors on your powerful rare or mythic and simply trying to splash the other color. The mana fixing available in your pool will determine how many colors you can play. Generally speaking, your best limited decks are only 2 colors, as that makes it less likely that you'll lose games due to not having the right colors of mana when you need them, but if you open enough fixing in your pool, you may be able to splash a 3rd color. There are 5 common dual lands in Spider-Man, one associated with each supported color pair. There's also an Evolving Wilds variant at common in Vibrant Cityscape. At uncommon, the Daily Bugle building land can serve as mana fixing if you're in a pinch, but at the cost of tapping down an additional mana source. The 3 rare lands are all great and worth running in their associated colors. Card quality is of the utmost importance in Limited. The difference between a good common and a mediocre common is significant, and the difference between a pool with a couple bombs and a pool without any good rares is night and day. As such, recognizing the best cards in each color will go a long way toward a winning pre-release deck. In this next section, I'll talk about a few of my favorite cards at each rarity for each of the 5 colors in Spider-Man. I'll also briefly touch on multicolor and colorless cards. In my evaluation, white struggles for bombs in Spider-Man Limited. That doesn't mean there aren't a few good cards, such as Spectacular Spider-Man and Friendly Neighborhood, but compared both to other colors in this set as well as what white generally offers in other sets, I feel the offerings are rather lackluster. Anti-Venom is indeed busted if you can cast him, but requiring a whopping 5 white mana to do so means that I doubt you're going to be able to in anything but the heaviest of white decks. At lower rarities, however, there are a lot of great cards. Silver Sable, Mercenary Leader, and Spider UK are awesome at uncommon, and they are at their absolute best in blue-white and green-white respectively. At common, Daily Bugle Reporters is one of the best commons in the set, and the Banishing Light variant of Web Up is as great as ever. Blue. Mysterio, Master of Illusion, is a stone-cold bomb in blue, though it's about as much of a removal lightning rod as they make in Magic. I also like the Clone Saga, though not impacting the board until its second chapter is not an ideal use for 4 mana. At uncommon, School Days is a phenomenal card for the blue-black control decks, while Spider Bite is a great card in any blue deck. At common, Mysterio's Phantasm is a fantastic home for your +1/+1 counters in blue-white. Oscorp Research Team is a great card in slower decks, as it's a fantastic blocker and a great mana sink in the late game. In contrast to white, black is absolutely chock full of awesome bombs. Agent Venom, Black Cat, and Villainous Wrath are all absolutely incredible cards. Even the second tier of rares like Gwenom Remorseless and The Death of Gwen Stacy are excellent. The only black rare that isn't good is possibly Parker Luck, which is just not a card that really shines in 1v1 Magic. The uncommons in black are all really solid too. Sandman's Quicksand is the worst of them, but even it is better in Spider-Man than cards of its kind are normally in Limited, because of Mayhem mode making it one-sided. And yeah, honestly, I like all of black's commons as well. Scorpion's Sting is probably the best of them, but don't count out Swarm being of bees, an awesome flash flyer in any deck with plenty of self-discard. With so many great cards all up and down the rarity ladder, black is my pick for the best color in the set. Unfortunately, red is a different story. While it has some solid rares, such as Spinneret and Spiderling, as well as Electro-Assaulting Battery, the card quality in the upper end of the color's rarity ladder is a real step down from black. At uncommon, however, things start to look a lot better. Superior Foes of Spider-Man is an incredible payoff in the green-red deck, and is even good in red-black thanks to its synergy with high mana value Madness cards. Wisecrack is capable of killing most creatures in this set for just 3 mana, and the extra 2 damage to the face if the creature it targets is attacking is a nice bonus. At common, Shock is always solid as cheap removal, and Electro's Bolt is a great rate if you can consistently cast it for its mayhem cost. And finally, Romantic Rendezvous is a great way to refuel once you're empty-handed. Green has a couple of fantastic rares. Kraven's Last Hunt is one of the best monocolor rares in the set. Lizard, Connor's Curse, is also a great card, especially if you have something small and evasive to target with its ability, like a City Pigeon. Sandman is a great card too, but the ability is a little worse than it reads because it requires you to have a land in your graveyard to target in order to work. At low rarities, Terrific Team Up is my favorite uncommon as an often cheap removal spell that triggers your mana value 4 matters cards. Spider-Man, Brooklyn Visionary is my favorite common, though you need to be able to reliably cast it for its web-slinging cost to make it worthwhile. What about multicolor and colorless cards? Well, I've got great news for lovers of gold cards. Every single multicolor rare and mythic in Spider-Man is pretty solid. If I had to pick a worst of them, it would be Cheering Crowd, as the downside of giving your opponent mana can be costly even as your creature continues to get bigger. Some of my best of the best picks from gold would be Bioganic Carapace, Dr. Octopus Master Planner, and Silk Web Weaver, as all 3 synergize perfectly with their respective color pairs. I also love all of the 3-color flip legends. Peter Parker, Norman Osborn, Eddie Brock, Gwen Stacy, and Miles Morales. Of these, Miles Morales is the absolute best, though Norman Osborn and Gwen Stacy aren't far behind. Keep in mind you can run these cards even if you can only cast the front side, but of course if you have them in your deck, you should try to be able to cast their back side at least some of the time. In contrast, most of the colorless rares in Spider-Man really aren't worth running. The exception to that rule is rocket-powered Goblin Glider, which is awesome in both red-black and blue-black. And Iron Spider, Stark Upgrade, which is solid in any deck but really shines in blue-white. At low rarities, there's not many colorless cards I'd run. News Helicopter is decent in green-white as an evasive creature that generates value when it enters, and in blue-white as a reasonable wearer of +1/+1 counters. I also love Subway card in any green deck, especially because of its crew ability's synergy with the web-slinging mechanic. And there you have it, everything you need to know before you pop on your favorite outfit, grab your backpack, and head down to succeed at your local pre-release. And speaking of your favorite outfit, if you would like to pick up one of these limited edition Tolarian Community College shirts or hoodies or even beanies, just go to tcc.store as our limited edition merchandise line is available now. But either way, please remember that pre-release events are truly such a blast, a wonderful and welcoming celebration of Magic the Gathering and this new set. So head on down to your local game store to experience the magic of pre-release all for yourself. And remember, if you are brand new to pre-release or building a sealed deck or just want to brush up on the basics, check out our new player's guide to Sealed Constructed here. This is also a great video to recommend to a friend who might be accompanying you to your pre-release event.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
What's up? It's Shuffle Up and Play, and today we have balanced our decks against a medium deck.
Mid? Do they call it? I think the kids call it mid.
But okay, f off.
Your deck was bonkers, crazy, powerful.
They replaced a couple cards.
And how many was that?
20? I have a really easy turn 1, a Gloom Lake Verge land.
Draw for turn.
And then I'm gonna draw for turn.
This is what I assume your lives are usually like. As influencers.
You're an influencer!
You're an influencer!
I wanna tell you this, see, that's what you do!
Death Cap Glade.
That a no cap? What's the, it's cap? Yeah, cap. Cap.
I want to attack, but I don't think anybody's naked. We got a 4/4 froggy.
Can't be naked.
What? Is this a common vibe?
Sometimes I say things and I don't know why.